Hello everybody, I'm Mihai Nitze, and in this lesson we are going to share knowledge about particularities in urban forests as ecological communities and their ecosystem dynamics. As you already discovered in the previous lessons, urban forests like any other forests are defined by structure and function. And what we know is that the structure itself is characterized by both spatial distribution and horizontal plus vertical development given by species diversity and dominance. And also we know that structure is regulating the number of functions, for instance, aesthetics or air purification. More structural diversity of urban forests we get, the more complex functions we receive. Moreover, this interdependence between structure and function is subject to dynamics as all living ecosystems do. When you take a look through the population ecology, you mostly look at population of individual species in isolations. In reality, the population of one species are rarely isolated from population of other species. In most cases, many species share a habitat, and the interactions between them play a major role in regulating population growth and abundance. Together, the population of all the different species that live together in an area make up what's so-called an ecological community. And urban forests are ecological communities, and they should be considered in this key whatsoever different than a simple urban green area. An ecological community consists of all population of all different species that live together in a particular area. When seeking to understand what drives the patterns of species coexistence, diversity, and distribution that we see in nature, you need to examine how the different species in a community interact with each other. Interaction between two or more species are called interspecific interactions. Different types of interspecific interaction have different effects on the two participants, which might be positive, negative, or neutral. The main types of interspecific interaction include competition, predation, materialism, commensalism, and parasitism. For instance, in trees, competition mainly occurs between neighboring individuals and usually involves the competition between crowns or light, resources, or between below-ground root system for soil, water, and nutrients. When dealing with urban forest management, an important aspect is to understand the concept of ecological niche or realized niche. A realized niche can be defined as the environmental position that a species occupies and lives in. Realized niche is also called post-competitive. It is the result of the presence of limiting factors, such as food, light, water, presence of other species, forcing the species or organisms to move to certain environments where they might thrive. A realized niche is therefore defined as a space in environment where a species is mostly highly adapted to play its role and reproduce. Regarding the dynamics of the urban forest ecosystem, spatial variation of urban forests reflect relationship amongst the equally varied interplays of trees, habitats, and human activities. Relevant patterns often show similarities among cities, neighborhoods, or habitats. You can see in here the similarities between Brasov and Rio de Janeiro. Parameters with a spatial theme include frequency and density of trees, three dimensions, age structure and performance, growth hormone and seasonality, composition, diversity, and origin of species and habitat characteristics. A varied forest is largely the result of synergistic antagonistic factors, notably development, history, and land use configuration. In old districts, like you have in here, Old Town in Brasov, the urban fabric inherently defies high caliber forest formation in terms of quantity, quality, and spatial contiguity. Tightly packed buildings and juxtaposed roads, lack of institutional grounds which could afford plantable spaces, continual infilling of low-density sites, the limited extent of parks and green spaces together endanger an effective tree exclusion zones. Under these circumstances, most trees are trapped in confined and often incongruous roadside niches. The limited tree cover resembles thin and sparse threads that wave through the city fabric with vast expanses of intervening artificial cover devoid of greenery. Regarding the evolution in terms of size, mortality, growth, and recruitment of tree species are key factors in influencing the structure, composition, and succession of forest communities. Tree mortality is recognized as one of the most important processes in forest dynamics as it's influenced by many factors. It can facilitate turnover in species composition, affect community structure, and so on. The mortality probably of an individual tree is commonly examined as a function of readability, measured variables such as tree size or recent growth, and the spatial pattern of surrounding trees. Regarding the urban forest, forest growth and recruitment are also important processes shaping forest structure and dynamics, but they can be influenced by different management actions to reverse any damaging development. Land use and site characteristics have a key bearing on forest composition and structure. Urban forests, for instance, with inherited natural, semi-natural, and spatially contiguous habitats, furnish opportunities for spontaneous tree invasion and growth. Hence, they have a wider range of species, especially natives. You can see here a picture from an urban forest in Brasov city, where suitable reforestation can recreate some natural forest parcels within one on the fringe of the city and can expand their ecological and recreational functions. The institutional function established by multiple decision makers is characterized by maximum species diversity. Nevertheless, trees are often accommodated in small and disparate niches between buildings. A sympathetic layout of buildings and open spaces with institutional sites could permit more room and more contiguous areas necessary for a high-quality treescape. Districts with a large number of dominant species are marked by lower species diversities. Another important fact is that in harsh sites, limit the range of eligible species and demand careful screening of nutrient ones. Small cities, especially parks and other green spaces, have a tendency to adopt a larger variety of species or to make the best of the limited area. In the end, I want to give you some takeaway message. We talk about the particularities in urban forests as ecological communities and their ecosystem dynamics. Urban forests are ecological communities different than a simple urban green area. Even in urban forests, we have the ecological niche concept. The spatial variation of urban forests reflect relationships amongst the equally varied interplay of trees, habitats, and human activities. Urban forests with inherited natural, semi-natural, and spatial contiguous habitats furnish opportunities for spontaneous reinvasion and growth. The institutional forest, established by multiple decision makers, is characterized by maximum species diversity. Thank you.